James Bryce was famous for climbing Mount Ararat and reaching the summit. In his presentation to the Royal Geographical Society in 1878, he downplayed the idea that the Ark came to rest upon the legendary mountain with which he was well acquainted. Bryce reminded his audience that the Ark only rested in a district which the Hebrew knew as Ararat or Armenia. He further explained the rationale behind the legends that placed the Ark on this particular mountain. At the same time, our mountain is so very much higher, more conspicuous, and more majestic than any other summit in Armenia, that one could hardly doubt that if the Bible writer had any particular mountain present to his mind, it must have been our Mount Ararat. No one who had ever seen it could have doubted that the Ark rested anywhere in that part of the world. It rested upon that particular summit. It is so much higher, so much more isolated, so much more imposing than any other, that it is just the place where an ark ought to rest.
In other words, it was the very idea that the flood was global to begin with, coupled with this magnificent mountain dominating the landscape, which made it the logical choice.
Our biblical rationale for the ark having come to perch atop the highest mountain stems from Genesis 8:5, where the tops of mountains were not seen for some time after the ark landed. Had the word hills been used, it would have aided our understanding somewhat. Furthermore, the Ararat construct, which includes the two stratovolcanoes, Great Ararat and Little Ararat, cuts across geologic formations from the Devonian, Permo-Carboniferous, Cretaceous, Eocene, and Miocene periods. These volcanoes erupted roughly 20 million years ago, punching their way through sedimentary rock containing fossils dating to the respective eras. Vast lava flows from Miocene time to the present cover many of the older sedimentary rocks.
Had the ark landed on this particular volcanic precipice, then the fossils contained in the stratified sedimentary layers beneath could not have been laid down during the flood. So ironically, the idea that the fossil record was sequenced by Noah's flood, as espoused by young Earth creationists, would be thoroughly discredited if it could be proved Mount Ararat was the landing site.
Both Akkadians and Sumerians identified Shuruppak as the home of the flood hero in the legends of Atrahasis, Gilgamesh, and Ziusudra, in agreement with the Sumerian king list. If Shuruppak, where Noah embarked on his voyage, presumably, can be corroborated with other relevant inscriptions, why not give a measure of credibility to the ark's designated landing site as well? Mount Nasir is mentioned twice in the Gilgamesh epic as the location where the ark landed.
Scholars disagree on the exact location of Mount Nasir, but two approximate areas are prominent, which we will examine in the next episode.
Genesis 8:4 says the ark landed upon the mountains of Ararat. First, the Hebrew word har, translated mountains in this text, also means hills. And the Hebrew Ararat is the Sumerian Arata, also known as Urartu, roughly corresponding to the area of Armenia today. In 2 Kings and Isaiah, the same Hebrew word is translated Armenia. So the biblical text is not specific, and the 17,000-foot agridog in Turkey, known as Mount Ararat, would be an extremely unlikely candidate.
Only in a global flood context does Mount Ararat become even a remote possibility, which may indeed provide motivation for perpetuating Agridog as the landing site. In a flood confined to the Mesopotamian plain, this mountain becomes the most unlikely of theoretical locations where the ark could have come to rest.
Numerous difficulties would have arisen had the ark landed on such a huge mountain. Getting the animals down the snow-capped precipice would be an enterprise, and then redistributing them around the globe to their former homes would be a nightmare. Kangaroos and koala bears back to Australia, Aye-ayes and other lemurs back to Madagascar, buffaloes and coyotes back to America, etc. Talk about a job for a good travel agent.
There are mountain barriers standing between Mesopotamia and the Ararat Range. Nothing resembling a boat of any kind has been documented atop Mount Ararat. Even eyewitnesses' accounts of the ark-like structures can be explained as volcanically produced basalt outcroppings that can, in the right light, resemble a barge. The Genesis text, using the plural mountains or hills, identifies no particular mountain, but points generally toward Armenia, which broadly embraces that region north and east of Mesopotamia.
In conclusion, if you have booked a tour to Turkey to climb a 17,000-foot snow-capped mountain to search for relics from the Ark, I would try to get my money back. Bill Krause found a bit of wood with bitumen on it dated to an early era near the foot of Jebel Judi and held a press conference saying he had found the famous Ark. But it was common practice to waterproof boats with tar in ancient times, and it could have come from any boat. Bitumen still to this day is produced at Hit, located on the Euphrates River, some 80 miles west of Baghdad. Virtual lakes of thick petroleum well up from deep faults. This petroleum is then packed into reed baskets and floated in barges down the Euphrates. One consideration for a landing spot would be that it needed to be in a remote location. The entire faithful remnant, the sum total of Adam's generations, had been reduced to just 8, including the wives of Noah and his 3 sons. There is safety in numbers, they say, and Noah's family had no numbers to defend against potential hostiles. They needed seclusion and time to reconstitute. Only a remote location would suffice, far distant from the Sumerian population, which may have survived in great numbers. Also, a flood confined to the area around the Euphrates basin presents real problems for a vessel trying to sail north towards a rising elevation. Perhaps with a sail attached, or with oars, or by using punting poles, as mentioned in the legend of Gilgamesh, and as depicted in the cylinder seal recovered from Uruk, or possibly even drawn by donkeys, the Ark could find itself resting comfortably in the foothills of Armenia. In our next episode, we will look at more promising landing sites and the dispersion of Noah's kin in Genesis 10. Thanks to my co-host, and thank you for watching.